Hey, folks, and welcome aboard to another episode of Azure Community Enthusiasts. My name is Kevin Green, and I'm here with my co-host, Nicholas Chang. Nick, say hello.
Hello. Hi.
Um,
Hi, guys.
Today we have two more great speakers coming up. We have Konstantinos Passadis from Athens in Greece, and he's going to talk about Synapse PII data masking with cognitive services. So nice level 400 or level 500 tech. Then we have Nills Franssens, who's a cloud solution architect at Microsoft. And Nills is going to talk to us about Microsoft Copilot for Azure. So getting that AI automation straight inside of the Azure portal. So
Yeah. So
just
let's
have some.
just
Do
do
you want to do
some.
your housekeeping, Nick, and we'll kick
Yeah,
on?
sure. Just quickly do some. Can you see my screen? Let me enlarge it.
Launch it. There we go.
Can you see?
Wrong screen. Swap it around. Swap screens. There
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Okay.
So welcome to Azure Community Enthusiasts. My name is Nicholas. I'm with my co-host Kevin Green. So code of conduct. So all members of this group should adhere to this code of conduct. Be friendly and welcoming to everyone. Be patient. Be thoughtful. Be respectful, inclusive, and be open and curious. So always try to ask questions to understand something, and not to criticize anything. Would you like to do this one, Kevin?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, we've got Konstantinos up first, and he's going to do some talks. A talk about Synapse, and then after Konstantinos, we'll have Niels on about Copilot. So, over to you, Kostas. Rather, over to you, and we'll let you kick off, Nick, if you want to bring them up on stage, and
Yeah.
then folks,
So
anyone watching, just if you want to drop your questions into the chat, we'll answer them as we go.
Yeah, so just want to say the next episode will be on the 4th of March, and following that, the last one for March will be 25th or 28th, because we're going to a DTB summit with Kevin, so both of us going. So we're gonna have a session on generate IT documentation with Azure OpenAI with Zulkadzin. Sorry, I pronounced it wrong if I pronounce it wrong. Yeah, Teresa. And transitioning from application access policy to RBAC for application with PowerShell by Kristen Ritter. So those are quite interesting session.
Cool.
So let's bring the speaker in. So the first session will Konstantinos. Bring him in. Hello, Konstantinos.
Hello, guys.
Would you like to share your slide? Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
There we go.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Nicholas and Kevin, for having me here tonight. It's an honor for me to present for you and Azure community enthusiasts for February 2024. My name is Konstantinos Passadis. It is Kostas for short. I'm a solutions architect here in Athens, Greece. I'm a 20-year plus IT professional. I've been almost everywhere and everything you can think about. But I love cloud, I love Azure, I love 365, DevOps, whatever you can think about it. And lately I've been into data and AI, as well as infrastructure. You can find me on LinkedIn. I have a GitHub where you can find some code, and in my blog you can find this session as well. So I don't want to lose time because it's quite a big session. And to tell you the truth, this session was two parts. The first part was to deploy our resources from Terraform Cloud. I will take a step back and I will explain what we're going to do. We're going to use Synapse Analytics alongside with cognitive services to mask personal identification information for our Active Directory users. The solution is built with the help of Terraform Cloud, but I will not stay there. I just want to show you two, three things about Terraform Cloud. So because it's taking a lot of CPU. So here is Terraform Cloud. Okay, when I deploy my resources, I will show you right now my VS Code. This is the code that I'm using. You can see that I have 3 files: main, providers, and variables. The key is in the providers, we are declaring the cloud block here, the organization, and the workspace that we're going to use. In Terraform Cloud, it is done via token, and it is stored in a file in my local PC in the app data directory as Terraform RC file. So I have already deployed my resources. Allow me to close VS Code. When I run Terraform plan and apply, I have the ability to approve the run, to set the apply to yes, proceed via the cloud UI. A lot of things here going on. It's not about Terraform Cloud, so let's move on. So what I have done, I have deployed our resources. And what are resources? Let's base. So we have here our workspace and a managed resource group. It is built when we create a new Synapse workspace. We also need to name our managed resource group that if you open it, you will see that it is like the one we are going to see. You think that it is empty, but if you click here in the show hidden types, you will find that you have the managed SQL server and the SQL database. It is offered along with the Synapse workspace. So here is our resource group. It's the RG demo data.
Costas, can you
Alongside
hear
with
me?
Synapse, we have created a cognitive services multi-service account, or we could have created a language service because data masking is done
Ah,
via the language service. I have 2 storage accounts. Yes,
Costas, can you hear us?
yes,
The audio is a little bit sketchy, so maybe what we might say, do you want to disable your camera? It might just be
yes.
some
I will do that.
latency on your side. So if we disable your camera, let's see how that goes. It's just coming in and out. So and we can do the same
Okay,
then on our side. So that's cool. Thank you so
okay.
much.
Thank you, thank
Go
you,
ahead.
thank you.
No problem.
So we have here our Synapse workspace, our cognitive services multi-service account, and 2 storage accounts. The second storage account is our data lake storage. You can see here the code, and we have created here also the file system. I have named it F-Sys, and a directory for the output. What I have done already is that I have exported our users' information into a JSON file. So let me upload quickly this file into the first storage account, and you will see that it is a JSON file, and it contains the user data. Okay, so let's upload this into the first storage account, into the uploads directory. I will do that very fast for you. We can use Azure Copilot, but for the sake of speed, we don't want to lose time. I will do it by hand. So into the containers, I have created via Terraform the AD users data container, and I'm uploading our file. The file is a JSON file, and you will see that with Synapse, we can transform our data from JSON to CSV, so we can later perform our analysis. It is here, and this is our file, AD users. It is uploaded. So back to the Synapse Studio. This is the Synapse Studio. When you create the Synapse Analytics workspace, you are also getting the URL where you can connect to Synapse Analytics Studio. What I have created here, I have created 2 linked services. One is the cognitive linked service, which is done via a REST linked service. I didn't use the cognitive services connector just to show you this little detail. When we want to communicate with cognitive services via REST API, we need this header, which is the key that we get from our resource. Of course, here we have the endpoint. So this is our first linked service. It is linked between Synapse and cognitive services. Another linked service is the blob storage, which is the input storage account. Here we have uploaded into this storage account the file that you saw earlier, the JSON. And I have created also another linked service. I could have used the default that is coming along with Synapse, but I need to, for you to be able to see from another perspective, the whole thing. So I have created another linked service, which is the data lake storage account. Always we need a data lake storage account to accompany our Synapse Analytics workspace. And we have already this connection here. It is the default storage, but I can create also a linked service with this. So this is the linked service. It will be used as the output. Okay. The first thing that we need to do is to create a copy task. The copy task will be a pipeline, of course, and what it is going to do. The pipeline is going to copy the data from the first storage account to the second one. All right, so let's go and find into our pipeline a copy task. We need to find our copy task. Let me remember. Yeah, copy data. This is the copy task. I just drag and drop, as you can see here, into the dashboard, the task. And here we have all the details. In the bottom of our screen, I can configure the source and the sink as it is called. So the source dataset, I can create a new one. And all this, I can do it from the home screen. You can see here that if you go to the home screen, you can click here in the ingest menu, which is like a wizard. It's a little bit easier for someone just starting to create copy task and pipeline. So let's use this wizard to create our copy task. The source is an Azure storage. The connection is already here for us. I have created it for you. So this is the input. I'm going to browse and find the file. This is my file. It is a JSON file. Okay. I move on. Now, this is the source data store. The file format is JSON, and I can preview the data. Nothing else to do here. The destination. It is also a linked service, and it is a data lake storage generation too. I have also this service as data lake out. You can see here the default is here for us also. Where I'm going to save it, I'm going to save it into the file system. I named it fsys into this directory named out files. And I'm going to use a file name like masked.csv. When I click next, I have the ability to select file format, the delimiter. I will need to add header to file because I have to create the first row as a header from our file, and click next. And here is the mappings. Okay, when we are ready to make the final apply and finish our copy task or our pipeline, we can map the columns from the values from the JSON to our CSV. So everything is a string. I only have to select the type as string for our mapping. Of course, I can create new columns and make differentiate our imports, our copy. Let me scroll down here and find the string. String, everything is a string here. Good. I need everything: display name, first name, last name, country, city, user principal name, and when created. This is also could be a daytime, but it doesn't matter for our little workshop. So let's move on. And this is our copy pipeline. Let's name it like this. It's JSON to CSV. And next, we are ready to finish our pipeline. This is a copy task that is taking the JSON file from the first blob storage, which is a linked service, to our data lake storage, which is also a linked service. We're just copying files now. We're just ingesting data, to say it in the data dictionary. Finish. Everything is done correctly. If I go here to my storage account, you can see that we have the JSON file created into our data lake. In the containers, into the file system, we have a CSV file. It is mask.csv. We will create another one that will have the mask data. This is just the not mask data. Okay, now let's move on. What we need to do now? I will have to take some quick looks because this is such a big data flow that we are going to use now. So what we are doing here from the Synapse Studio, what we are utilizing is a template. We're going to use a template from Synapse Studio, and we're going to change it to fit our needs. So let's go and find the gallery. Let me find the gallery real quickly here. No, it is on the home. No, let me find the gallery here. No. I hope you're hearing me correctly, guys, and not having trouble hearing me. So let me find the gallery real quick. Yes, it's from the integrate, and I have to go to browse the gallery here. So integrate plus, and I'll be taken into the Synapse gallery. Here we will find our template. Let's scroll down a little bit, and we will find the template created to mask personal identification data. This is the one. I'm selecting it and press continue. So I have to select for the linked service the data lake and the cognitive for the detection and masking data flow. And I'm opening the pipeline. Here is our pipeline taken from our gallery. So let's start making our changes now. A lot of work to do here. I hope our time fits. What I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to bring my copy task here and connect these two tasks, the copy data and the data flow that we have here. So I'm opening the data flow, and let's change our data set. The first thing that we have to do is change our data set. So let's create a new data set here, which is from the Synapse, from the data lake, I'm sorry. And it is a CSV file. I could have created the dataset from the home menu and from the data menu, but I can create a new dataset here. It's going to be delimited text, if I remember correctly. Yes. I'm selecting my subscription and my storage account. No, I'm sorry, not needed this. And here in the source options, I have to create my destination dataset. Let me bring my pipeline into the first screen, the copy pipeline JSON. So we're going to have our dataset here. Copy into here. Yeah, why it's not coming? Yes. And this is going to be the relationship. So let's create our dataset. Yeah. In the data flow again, I'm going in the data source. The source settings is going to be an integration dataset. And I'm selecting the destination dataset from my pipeline. Correct. Nothing changing here. Let's move on to the next create request body part of the data flow. Here we have to make a lot of changes. Let's do that. I'm going to open the expression builder and I'm going to copy, so I don't write it by hand, the whole expression that will fit our output. Let me select that. Yes, it will find it later, no problem. And let me change also the next expression. Copy and paste here. Save and finish. Nice. Now we have to go back to our first step. So from my data flow, where it's gone, I will find it. Back to the first step. In the source options, on the destination dataset, open. This is my destination dataset. You can see here where it's taking my data. And I'm going to publish everything now because I need to change the template. And I'm going to import the schema from the connection. I'm closing this. So it's understood the schema from my dataset. And now in the columns of our pipeline, you will see that our columns have changed to 7 total. The next part now all errors have gone because our schema, our data source have changed, and now we can continue, and our expression is valid. So it is not seeing an error here. Let's move on. Now we're clicking anywhere outside of this task chain into the canvas. We have to change this information here. So the source file system, what it is fsys. This is our data lake file system. The source file path, it is the output directory. And what is our source file name? It is masked.csv. I have to add this. Okay, it is understood now. Now, the data flow is almost ready. We have to go also to check every step along the way that it is correct without errors. And we can publish now our changes. Let me have a quick look that everything looks okay. Yes, the parameters here are fine. The source options, not needed something here to change. I think we are good to go. A final check. Let me see, and the final parameters from this view, I have also these parameters, which I have also to change, guys. Don't forget this. There are two parts in our data flow that we should change our data. So again, here we have to add the fsys. Sorry. This is the fsys, which is the file system. This is the source file. I'm sorry. It is a pipeline expression. This is the outputs folder that is taking our CSV, and this CSV is going to be masked, and the source file name, again a pipeline expression, it is the masked.csv file. Let me publish quickly. Let me check that the data that it is out files and it is not output. So I have a little mistake here, but I will create a new directory just to save time. Outputs. So I don't have to change everything again. Let me find my file from downloads. It is this one. Oh, come on. Okay, and I'm going to upload it and rename it later. That's CSV. Yeah. So our data flow is publishing. This outputs the directory. This is why I made the change. I'm going to publish again. What is asking? Sync type is required. Yes, we have the sync type. We have done the mapping. We have everything here. I don't understand why it is failing. Let me have a quick look, guys. Sorry for that. Oh, here the sync. Yes, I have to enter the sync here. Of course, I need to add here in my last step the file name, which is the most important thing. I have to select here inline because I'm selecting into my data flow the file name. The dataset type is going to be also a delimited text, of course. Yes, and I'm going to save it again into my linked service. No problem about that, into my data lake. I have to add a file name, of course, which is going to be set here in the settings. Okay, browse here. I'm going to be taken into my data lake. I can use whatever folder I want. I have now two into my I can use whatever folder I want. So I can use here the out files. I think this is the name. Yeah, I have a mistake here, and luckily I saw that. I need to add here the correct directory because it's a hierarchical namespace. And I'm going to upload again my data that is going to be masked. From downloads, this is the file. This is not the mask data. Okay, and I'm going to rename it. Luckily I saw that because didn't I just upload that? What happened? And rename it. CSV. Yes. Okay, it's the correct directory outputs and the file is correct masked. Yes. So browsing here, I'm going to select the output folder of the masked data. And I'm going to select the directory is the correct expression, not folder. Either out files or outputs. Let's select here out files for our final destination of the actual mask data of personal identification information. I hope you're hearing me, guys, because it's getting quite slow right now. I don't know why.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Okay, great. I'm going to write it by hand. Okay. And I'm going to add the file name. Go away. First row as a header. File name, I'm going to select my file name. I'm going to output to a single file, and it opens the menu to add the file name, ad users masked.csv. I'm going to add that name, ad user masked.csv. Yes, I think we are good to go now. I hope our time is single partition. Yes, of course. Don't forget about that. When we're outputting to a single file, I have to set here single partition on the data flow for the sync. So if this workshop was done alongside with Terraform, we could have a lot of trouble with the time. I hope I'm fine with time. Otherwise, please, guys, tell me where we stand regarding time. Sync type is required. We have that. Come on. Oh, this is the pipeline. Okay, no worries. I don't care about this one. I care about this, but no problem. Let's fix everything.
Costas, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I think I noticed a typo. I don't know whether it makes much of a difference, but when you called the CSV in this view AD masked, you misspelt
Yeah,
masked.
maxed. Yes. It is not a problem because the file is created once the data is masked. Yes. Thank you very much for telling me.
No, just in case that was related to the error.
Yes. Okay. For sure. But thank you for letting me know. I just have to tell also to our guys that are listening, this does not matter. This typo does not really matter because it is the file that is created just when the masking happens. So
gotcha.
We really just can enter anything here. So let's return to our flow here, our pipeline, and we are good to go. I think it already have run, but let me trigger it now. Everything is published. We don't seem to have any errors. It's quite difficult to keep up, guys. I know that. And even that we have a template in our hands, it needs to be careful, take careful steps when we make the changes into the positions that we need to make the changes. So I'm running now the copy data that will take data from the JSON file into the CSV, and once it succeeds, it will move on and will execute the data flow that will mask our data as we have configured it for our flow. Now we have to wait. I hope that we'll get our data and see what happens. In case we don't, I have a file that I can show you and how it looks. Let's have a quick look on how the unmasked data, because this is not the masked data. I name it masked into my anxiety and trying to be quick. But yes, this is not the masked data. This is the actual data. Okay, the users from the Active Directory. Display name, first name. Okay, we're going to see some of this data to be masked from our cognitive services. And once this pipeline completes, we should find our output. I think we've added it here in the out files directory, if I remember correctly. Yes, I think it is in the out files directory. Now we are waiting for the pipeline run to complete. Here we will find that, the file name with the typo. It's taken a little bit, and I have seen this happening from time to time.
Live demos.
I hope I don't take time of the next session, guys. Yes, live demos, exactly.
So just we are pushing on time, Kostas. So just
let me find quickly the file that we're going to get. Yeah.
And we've just had a quick look for any questions, folks. If anyone has any questions that they want to drop in while we're waiting on the pipeline to complete, ping them in. And Kostas, I'm sure you'll probably hang on while Nills is presenting if somebody has a question after the fact as well. If needs be, we can hopefully get their questions answered then.
Yes. Let me also find the file that we are supposed to see. I hope I have it somewhere. In the downloads folder, because it was looking for him. Yeah, this is an example of what we should get. The first column is showing the redacted text, and the second column is showing the actual text. So that is what our pipeline and ultimately our data flow does. It presents us with this file, where in the right we will see the actual text that cognitive services masked, and here we will get the text that cognitive services redacted and consider it as personal identification information. This is the output. The output should be into this directory, but the pipeline, I think, is taking forever now. It's not making our life easier. I'm sorry about that, guys. Usually it takes 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes to complete.
It makes perfect sense. And live demos,
so if you
can never be guaranteed. You can never be guaranteed with live demos. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So yes, this is the file name that the file that we will be presented with. And yes, I don't think there is point for us to wait for the pipeline.
Agreed. And just seeing some comments there, Lamprini just mentioned it's all clear.
And I think I'm on time. Yeah, is that correct? All right.
Yeah. Yes, all good. All good. Excellent. That's excellent stuff. So we've no additional questions have come in from the audience. So I guess you've just explained it so brilliantly, Kostas, that it's clear to everyone. I thought it very interesting the process that you followed here to get this, and the use cases for having that redacted data, particularly as AI starts coming in, and you're using the COG services to redact that data when people have these bring your own data scenarios for AI. I think it's really, really useful. AI amongst
Yes.
other things, of course. Nick, any questions, or
Yes,
you happy
exactly.
to wrap it up? No? Okay. No more questions, and looks like everyone has gotten the message. Obviously, we've got this recorded as well. I think with the amount of steps it took to build out this
Great.
pipeline and show people, it's important that we have something that we can kind of go back on and look at a recording later. So, I think, Kostas,
Great.
if you're happy to close up now, then we can keep an eye on questions as Nills is presenting.
For sure. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. I will stay online to see the next presentation. I hope you liked it. You can find me in my details and also through this group. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kostas. Great demo. Great presentation. Well done. Okay, cool. So next up, folks, we have Nills. Nick, if you can bring Nills into the stage. Hi, Nills.
Hey, everybody.
So Nills is going to talk about Microsoft Copilot for Azure.
Yes, and let me get my screens here set up. Give me a little shout once you can see everything.
Yep.
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect. Thanks for joining, everyone, and thanks for having me here. Next, I think 30 minutes we'll cover some exciting things in the world of AI, mainly focusing on the Microsoft Copilot for Azure, which is a Copilot built in straight into the Azure platform that will help you be more productive as you deploy and manage your resources. But with that said, my name's Nills. I'm a digital and app innovation specialist at Microsoft, based here on the west coast of the US, close to San Francisco. And I work with 6 of Microsoft's strategic customers this year. And all of my 6 customers are already doing work around OpenAI and GPT and seeing how generative AI can help them accelerate their business. And we're seeing that in a lot of different areas from the Microsoft lens. The Microsoft Cloud is really playing a big role in this new era of AI. And it's not all just about our partnership with OpenAI. I think that is a big contributor to Microsoft's success in this world of generative AI. But as we think about the Microsoft Cloud, Microsoft is integrating AI either in the form of generative AI or more traditional AI in all of the different solution areas that we serve. And our goal is to, one, help unlock productivity across your business with the Microsoft Copilot, which will be integrated in all of the different solution areas that we have at Microsoft, but also to enable you as a customer to build those transformational AI solutions with Azure as your cloud. And as we think about building those Copilots, and we'll get on the Copilot for Azure in a second here, but we have a sort of, let me call it, reference architecture that's called our Copilot stack, which we use internally, I'd say, to build our Copilots. As you think about the Microsoft Copilot or the GitHub Copilot or some of the others that I'll show here in a second. This is the stack that we use to build that. And it's somewhat coincidental that we just saw Konstantinos' presentation around scrubbing PII information, because as you look at this Copilot stack, all of the different layers in this stack must be safe and secure in order to have a safe and secure Copilot to be released. If you all remember, in the early days of cloud, we always had conversations, or at least I always had conversations around a shared responsibility when it came around security in the cloud. We secure as Microsoft the infrastructure layer, but you as a customer are responsible for the operating system and the application. The same thing holds true as you are building your own Copilot. We as Microsoft, we take very big pride in giving you very good AI infrastructure and foundational models that have some security built in. But on top of that, and I'll actually touch on that as we talk about the Azure Copilot, You also need to ensure that as you go up in the stack, that you as a customer also integrate safety and security in those different layers. But as we look here at this Copilot stack, it all starts from the bottom, just from, I like to call it core AI services that you need. One part is the infrastructure, let that be compute or let that be GPUs, or with the new Microsoft Maya chip, the Microsoft AI accelerator. It's just giving you the infrastructure that you need to build and run those models. On top of that, we have some foundational models available. We all know about OpenAI and what we offer with GPT 3.5 or GPT 4, but there's other foundational models that are also offered, like Llama 2, where we do have a service called Models as a Service, where rather than having to run Maya, or rather than to run Llama on your own infrastructure, you could run Llama as well within Models as a Service and get a very similar experience as you would do with the OpenAI models. And then on top of that, you have your data that you can serve. And to build a good Copilot, you don't just need the foundational model, or you don't just need GPT or OpenAI, but you need some form of orchestration to interface between the actual Copilot or the user interface that you offer to your customer. And you need some form of orchestration that helps you put the different pieces together. And that orchestration, as we think, for instance, about the Microsoft Copilot for Azure that we'll be showing in a second, that is where you as a company can use your let's say intellectual property and your brand and your knowledge of your products and industry to build a really powerful Copilot. And on top of that AI orchestration, you can either build your own Copilot, or you can use the Microsoft Copilot, and we have different Copilots built into different parts of the stack within Microsoft. And just to show you some of those Copilots, the first one is the Microsoft Copilot. That's the one that is also called the Microsoft Copilot for M365, but it is a Copilot built into Outlook, Word, Excel, Teams. It's built into your browser, and it's connected to all of your data that is hosted within the Microsoft Graph, and can really help you be super productive. As I think about my day-to-day job, I use the Microsoft Copilot on a daily basis. I use it to help me write emails. I use it to help me summarize Teams meetings and get a good overview of the next actions that come out of Teams meetings. But I also use it to gather data. Like as I'm working on a new presentation for a customer, I might ask it to either find me some slides that have already previously been generated, or I might even take it a step back and ask, hey, what is the best way to deliver a presentation around Microsoft Copilot for Azure, and how should I frame this for my customer? That's the Microsoft Copilot. There's a couple of other Copilots, and I won't touch on them. I won't touch on all of them here on the slide, but maybe the last one I'll touch on here before we dive into the Azure Copilot is GitHub Copilot. I think GitHub Copilot is the one that still excites me most to this day. GitHub Copilot is a Copilot built into GitHub. Right now, there's I'd say the more traditional GitHub Copilot, which is a plugin in your Visual Studio Code, or JetBrains environment, where it can help you be more productive as you're writing code, and it can give you suggestions. It can do autocomplete in a very advanced way, but you also have GitHub Copilot Chat, where you have more of a Chat GPT style interface, but really focused on your code and specific to the code that you're writing right now. GitHub Copilot is evolving and also has added lately a new functionality called GitHub Copilot Enterprise, which is built into github.com. And as you're running infrastructure or your code within github.com, GitHub Copilot Enterprise can give you very tailored information and very tailored recommendations or answers to questions based on all of the code that you have within GitHub. And I think that is a very exciting evolution from the plugin into the IDE that's really focused on helping an individual developer to being available within github.com and giving you access to all of your code that is available there. But everybody came here today to learn more about the Microsoft Copilot for Azure. So why don't we touch on that here before we dive into a demo? So The Microsoft Copilot for Azure is a Copilot built straight into the Azure portal that helps you design, operate, troubleshoot, and optimize all of your deployments that you have running within Azure or that you want to create on Azure. It does a couple of things really well. First is it can generate very tailored insights. It's aware, for instance, of where you are within the portal, so it knows which pane in the portal you are looking at, but it's also aware of all of the resources that you as a user have access to. So if you ask it questions, it can give you very tailored insights. It is integrated as well with the Microsoft Azure documentation. So that helps you discover new cloud functionality as well. And as you have questions around a certain feature or a certain product, the Copilot for Azure can help you discover that functionality as well. And it can help you operate very seamlessly across different resources that you have. Because sometimes when you're within the Azure portal, you're stuck within a single blade, but the Copilot can very seamlessly help you navigate between different resources and help you complete those tasks. Right now, service is in preview. There is a sign-up sheet, and I'll show you the sign-up sheet here in a second as well. But what do you all say that we stop the slides here and move it over into a demo? Because I think that's most interesting for everyone. And if I have things right, we should be in the Azure portal. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about, remember when we talked about the Copilot stack that I talked about, the AI orchestration, and that there is some level of responsibility on you as a developer of a Copilot to add safety and security there as well. We did that here in the Azure Copilot. The Azure Copilot, or the Microsoft Azure Copilot, or Microsoft Copilot for Azure, is tailored to help you be productive within Azure. It is not meant to be a general purpose chatbot, and it's also not meant to help you summarize emails. But let's, for instance, say that I want to know who is the current king of Belgium. That is something that the foundational model actually knows. GPT 3.5, GPT-4 knows who the current king of Belgium is or has the ability to look that up. But the Microsoft Copilot for Azure is really focused on giving you the ability to do things within Azure. And it just says, I'm not assisting you with this. And this is just key as you're thinking about using this Copilot. This is just an Azure Copilot. This is not for any other services. But it's also helpful for you as you think about designing your own to build that in as well so that your Copilot doesn't or has a lesser risk of being abused. But let's maybe start with some things. First thing that I want to show you here is that the Copilot for Azure can help write Azure Resource Graph queries that can show you all of the resources that you have. And so, for instance, I can ask it to show me all my Cosmos DB accounts. Fun thing is, this is my demo environment, so I actually only have one. But it is now, as you can see, generating a resource graph query to list all the Cosmos database accounts. And it'll then show you the query, and it'll then also execute that query. So if we give it a second to complete here, we should very soon see okay. So there you go. Good things here. First thing is it gives you the link straight up to my Cosmos DB, but also it can help me go into the Resource Graph Explorer. It gives me this query, and me as an administrator, I now have my base query that I can start with, and if I need to know more, I can get more information from here as well. Let's maybe ask it for a second query, and why don't I ask it? Show me all the regions that I have. Let me just use the word stuff deployed in. Stuff could mean a lot of things, but I'm just referring to all of my resources. And I think, actually didn't test this yesterday, but I think that it is smart enough to translate stuff in all resources to know which regions I'm using. And I'm taking a little bit of a risk here. But yeah. So here it is showing me all my locations. And if we give it another minute, as you see here, I have resources deployed in 5 different regions. Okay, cool. Next up, why don't we ask it just some questions around Azure services? And I noticed that we have Richard in the YouTube chat. So why don't I ask it some Kubernetes questions? We can actually make it a race between Richard and the Copilot for Azure. Thinking of a good question to ask, but why don't I ask it, how do I secure network traffic inside of an Azure Kubernetes cluster? And so right now what you'll see is it's determining what to do, and it automatically knows, oh, this is a question for the documentation. Let me go to the documentation and then scrape through it and give me hopefully the right answer. And I've got to say, I am not a total fan of the answer that it's giving me here, because it's referring to the Azure firewall. Oh, it does mention network policies, which is the right answer that I was actually expecting. But the one thing I would recommend everyone, if you work with this Copilot, is to really provide it a thumbs up and thumbs down, because that's what we as Microsoft use to, I'd say, inaccurate. It's what we use to get better with this Copilot. So now, why don't we switch a little bit, and why don't we try and create some resources here? And I think the way I got invited to this community was the first thing that I did when I got this access to the Copilot for Azure was I tried to create a Azure Kubernetes cluster. And I think right now I don't have any clusters. So why don't I ask it to create a cluster? Help me create a new AKS cluster. And it'll try to process this. And I think it'll come back with a couple of questions. Oh, it's just directly going to the CLI script. Okay, so it provided me with a CLI script, which I could run straight from within Copilot, but I don't like all of the things that it did here. So why don't I edit this script to also create a new resource group called Azure Community. Make the location West US 3, change the VM size to standard D4S V5, and only a single node. Call the cluster Azure Community. So I just now gave it some natural language instructions to hopefully get the correct script back. Okay, let's see. It creates the right resource group, so that looks correct. And then as we look to this resource group, Azure Community, name Azure Community, node count 1, node VM size, generate SSH key. I think this should work. Let's just go ahead and run it. I don't think this is going to run if it wants to run in PowerShell. Huh. This does not look right. Let's try this again. Yeah. Okay, this looks better. I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was because I already had a shell open. But here we see straight integration between Copilot and the Cloud Shell. For those of you not familiar with Cloud Shell, I suppose most people are, but if you are not, Cloud Shell is a, let's call it sort of an ephemeral shell environment that you get within the Azure portal, either PowerShell or Bash, where you essentially don't need to install anything on your local machine. You can straight up interact with your cloud resources that way. But let's get this running. This will take, Kubernetes cluster should take about a minute or 5, hopefully less. But let's show off some more things that Copilot can do here. And maybe the one thing that I'm always very conscious of is my cost. So how much have I spent on Azure this month? I'm very lucky that I work for Microsoft and I get a little bit of an allowance to spend on Azure, but still I need to be mindful of how much I am spending, because we do get very nasty emails if we tend to overspend. So let's have a look. Okay, you have spent $1 on Azure services. I think that my manager would be happy with $1. Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Storage, Cosmos DB, Log Analytics. But it's only talking about the services. I want to see the individual resources. So show me my most expensive resources. Actually, don't think this is going to work, guys. I don't think the resource graph has information around cost, but let's see. And again, this is the fun of giving live AI demos, because you never know how it's going to act. Huh. Interesting. Never expected this to work. Let's see. If I minimize this. Yeah, cost is null. So this is actually false info. Inaccurate. Not the right info. Doesn't have cost info. Share. Okay. Using cost management. Show me the most expensive resources. Maybe this will work, because that's something I actually did prepare yesterday. Okay, so now we can see. Now we actually see that if we tell it to use cost management, it does show me which of my individual resources are the most expensive ones. So that's what I was expecting. So we're at 8 out of 10 requests within this session. So now I have my Kubernetes cluster. The cluster is ready. I wonder if it has enough context. Wonder if it has enough context, but let's see, the cluster is ready. Help me authenticate to it and then show all the nodes in the cluster. Let's see if it has enough memory to remember what the cluster means. And as I think we're closely running up on time here. I do want to ask for audience questions. And Kevin, thank you for that feedback. It is really nice to see that that feature. I do want to ask if there's any audience questions or things that you would like me to show. Ask away, or if there are prompts that you would like me to ask the the Microsoft Copilot for Azure, please put them in the chat and let's see what it would do. So here we see it forgot about my cluster, but let's just copy this, paste it in. I think we called it Azure Community. Azure Community. So we have this, and if we then do the get nodes, it again wants to do a new shell. That's not what we want. Let's just do it this way then. And here we see the single node in this cluster. Okay, so we had a question from Konstantinos, who enabled a Copilot for Azure, but he doesn't know if he will be charged. So during the preview for Copilot for Azure, there are no costs. Microsoft has not disclosed whether or not they will be charging for Copilot for Azure. So right now, there's no cost during the preview period. That might potentially change in the future, but I don't know whether or not it will be a paid feature in the future. I can't fully commit to that. But once you have access to Copilot for Azure, the Copilot for Azure is enabled on a tenant by tenant basis, which means that one, if you want it enabled in your organization, you would need a tenant administrator to approve the use of the Copilot for Azure. And two, what it also means is that if one user in the tenant has access to Copilot for Azure, everybody in that tenant will have access to it. I did listen to a podcast last week with one of the PMs who shared that they are working on potentially allowing you to get that on a more fine-grained portion where you would have it on certain subscriptions and not on a tenant-by-tenant basis. But at least for now, it's on a tenant-by-tenant basis that you get access. Could you push it to provide bicep? Okay, let's see. That's a good question. Let's see if it can generate bicep. And what I will do here is I will start a new chat. You will see that I'm at 10 out of 10 requests. During the preview period, these things are limited. So right now, a single session has a maximum of 10 requests. I don't know if that number is going to change. But what's also important during the preview is that there's a maximum of 5 chats per 24-hour period. So you do have to be a little mindful about how you use this. These are just limits during the preview period. They might be lifted in the future, but it is something to be mindful of as you're using this, to be a little frugal with your requests. But let's get it to create me a bicep template for a which service should we use? Let's do an Azure database for Postgres. I didn't try bicep myself. I would expect it to be able to do bicep, but let's see if it's actually able to.
Nills, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Kevin.
Yeah, it should do bicep. It has the codex model behind it. It'll do bicep, Terraform, JSON. It'll do them all, but it can be a little bit slow, like you see in here. It's not as fast as if you run it through the Azure OpenAI model. But it's still good. And I just on your requests, your limit to the number of requests. I say to my users internally in Ergo, treat it like you have like a magic lamp and you have a certain number of wishes from a genie. You know,
yes.
Consider what you want. And if you're demonstrating, if anyone here is a consultant and you have access to it, you're demonstrating it to customers. The biggest bang for buck with this is the cost management overview and even a resource graph analysis as well. Everything else you can get elsewhere. But it's really good. I do hope they remove that limit, and it is in preview, to be fair. Like it's only going to get better in terms of performance.
Yes, it definitely should get better. The one thing that I've seen with some of my customers as well is as you're doing work against an OpenAI GPT API, performance can be variable throughout the day. And I think being at noon here on the West Coast might just be that OpenAI is in full demand, and that's why things are a little bit slower. There are solutions to solve this, but just talking in general. But here you see it does actually provide us the bicep file. So if you ask it really nicely to give you the file, it will provide it to you. So you might have to do a little bit of prompt engineering.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Don't see any other questions coming in from the audience. Looks like you've hit the nail on the head with the demos.
Cool.
Looks cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe in closing, if you allow me, Kevin, I just want to leave the audience
Sure.
with a few links, and I can share the actual slides as well.
Awesome.
I think the first two links on here, the first one is a link to the blog that announces the preview, just going over the features. Second one is a sign-up sheet to get access to the preview. It does need to be enabled by a tenant admin, so either that's yourself or somebody within your company, but you do need to join the preview request. And then I left you with two other resources. One is a podcast episode with somebody from our PM team. I think the podcast was released like a week or 2 weeks ago. Very informative as well about some of the things that they are working on just from where we are now and where they're thinking of bringing this. So that's super interesting. And the fourth thing is the Ignite session. Now, the Ignite session was October-ish, November-ish. I don't know the exact timeline, but I think it was November. So that's already a good 3 months ago. So things have evolved from where it was. But still, I think the Ignite session also shows you a lot of the things and the capabilities that Copilot had back then. And it only grows from there. So I wanted to leave you for sure with these resources.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you so much, Nills. Really appreciate it. And for Kostas as well. We had two really good sessions tonight, and good attendance from the audience as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Really
this is fun.
Session.
You're very welcome.
So before you leave, Nills, can you talk about a bit more about the limitation of Copilot for Azure?
Yes. So I think the limitation right now is you get 10 messages per chat instance, and you get 5 chat instances per 24 hours. So essentially, if you do everything exactly the right way, you can get up to 50 messages out of the preview per day.
Okay. You just need to start a new chat window.
Yes.
Because you got limited of chat. Okay.
Yeah, I actually did that during the demo. So if you see here, it actually shows you per message how far you are. So I'm now at 2 out of 10 requests. If I were to be at the full 10, you can just go here and create a new chat window, which I will not do because I might have to use it later today.
Okay. Do you know whether there's a feature to maximize that window, or is just that small window?
I don't know. I'm gonna be transparent. I don't know. This is just Nills talking. This is not Microsoft talking. But what I expect, honestly, is that I think the 10 limit might be a limit that stays for a while. You see the same thing, for instance, in Bing Chat. To optimize the context window for the chat and to keep all of the context in memory, sometimes it's better to limit the amount of messages. But I do think, and I think this is Nills talking, not Microsoft, that the 5 chats per 24 hours, that limit might be lifted as we go towards general availability and we get a better understanding of user profiles. But again, that's just me spitballing. That is definitely not a commitment from Microsoft.
Okay, brilliant. That's all.
Cool.
Yeah, I got no more question, so it's quite good session today, Nils.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Thank you
think
for
we'll
having
wrap it
me.
up then, Nick. Give everyone their evening back, and Nils, it's only probably afternoon for you over there. So
Yeah. No worries.
It
So
is.
thanks for joining. Let me add it back in. So Nils and Konstantinos.
Yes, guys.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much for having me.
Yeah.
Nils,
worries.
this was a great presentation because you solved quite a lot of questions I had because, I enabled Copilot, but it didn't have time to push it, do things actually. So, yeah, and the cost management is very useful, very useful.
Okay. Thank you. Love the feedback.
Yeah,
Cool.
brilliant. So
Okay,
let me
folks.
just quickly play a little small outro for the next episode, and then we go from there. Thanks.